Hi, Shalom Aleichem. It's good to be in touch with all of you. I wanted to share with you a thought from here in Yerushalayim just before Purim. Purim is the festival and the piece of Tanakh that's really essentially in the Galut. It's in the exile, right? It begins Vahi b'mei Achashverosh, Hu Achashverosh HaMolech Mehodu Vad Kush, 127 Medina, right? That it takes place in the empire of Persia. Even the protagonist of the story, Mordechai, is called Ish Yehudi, Haya b'Shushan Abirah. He was in Shushan. No mention of Eretz Israel, pretty much, except for the negative, right? Asher Haglam Yerushalayim, that they were exiled from Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar. So therefore, there are some who have the custom to focus on Geulah, specifically on redemption during the festival of Purim. So I wanted to share with you an idea. It comes actually from Sefer Yoshua. Eretz Israel is very hidden in the story of Purim because the Jews are mourning on the one hand. They're terrified. They're about to be destroyed by Haman, by Amalek. On the other hand, when the dust settles on Purim, they're still in Shushan. Right? So there's a hiddenness to Eretz Israel. On the other hand, it's clear that Purim sets the stage for what keeps us going. Right? The pasuk says, "Kimu v'kiblu kol Yehudim." All the Jews received. The Talmud tells us, the Gemara in Megillah, that Kimu v'kiblu means that we accepted upon ourselves the oral tradition. So there's a balance here. What kept us going in the exile? So when will we come back? So there's a very beautiful idea that comes at the beginning of Sefer Yoshua. This is a sefer called the Musar HaNevi'im. It's written by a Rav actually from Cleveland, of Mordechai Ginsburg, and I believe it's from Mordechai Ginsburg. It's out of print. It's an amazing sefer. And what this sefer does, basically, again, it's called Musar HaNevi'im, is sort of similar to what the Torah Tamima does on Torah. Brings a lot of the Talmudic commentaries, Midrashim, Magadot, and then offers a commentary on what they mean on the different psukim and the different verses in Tanakh and Sefer Yeshua. So he has an introduction, which I think is worth considering. He says, Lehakdamat Sefer Yeshua, which is the introduction to the beginning of Navi. Right? The Chamisha Chumshei Torah, the 5 books of Moses, finished, and Yeshua starts. And there's an obvious question, right? The Gemara in Nedarim on Daf Chav Bet says, if the Jewish people hadn't made mistakes, if we hadn't sinned, whatever that means, then we would not have been given all of the Nevi'im. All of the Yeshayahu, Yirmiyahu, Yechezkel, Treasar, Daniel, all those books came because we made mistakes. And the prophets had to come and tell us off. But if it hadn't been for that, if we'd been on the perfect stream, then we would have received only the Chamisha Chumshei Torah, Bereshit, Shemot, Vayikra, Bamidbar, Environment, and Sefer Yeshua. Right? So that's very interesting, right? I can understand that we wouldn't, first of all, why would we have received Sefer Yeshua? Like, I understand that the 5 books of Moses are different precisely because they're called the 5 books of Moses. They were a direct communication from Moshe, who spoke to God. Yeshua is already a Navi, he's not Moshe. So why doesn't Yeshua fall the way of the books of the prophets? What's the obvious response? Is that Yeshua is different. Because Yeshua is the book where we received Eretz Israel. And in the book of Yeshua, so we were given Eretz Israel, and therefore that was always meant to be. Right? Putting aside the whole question of free will and divine providence and what that means, that we were meant to make mistakes, but okay. So that's an unbelievable idea. That the Nevi'im were there. What did the Nevi'im do? All of the Sifrei Nevuah were designed to give us Tochacha, to tell us off. Right? They were given because we made mistakes, and the Nevi'im, the prophets, had to come and tell us off. And of course, Megillat Esther is one of the Chavdalat Kitvei Kodesh. It's one of the books, the holy books, and therefore it too is part of the Nevi'im, and therefore it too was designed to give us rebuke for the mistakes that we made. Right? Okay. Of course, that raises an interesting question. There are a lot of things in the Nevi'im. There are a lot of things in the books of the prophets that we were meant to receive, like the Beit HaMikdash, which is built by Shlomo HaMelech and Sefer Melachim. So we're going to say that never should have happened? Right? So the Musar HaNevi'im says, U'pirush Rashi she'ikaran shel shar HaNevi'im lo haya ela lochiach et Yisrael al averot shebiyadam. That the other books of the Nevi'im were only meant to tell the Jewish people off of their mistake. V'chichol divrei Nevi'im me'amuraot shel malchei Beit David v'kein kol binyan Beit HaMikdash gam ein lahem shum chashivut. They had no importance, all of these important ideas. V'hanireh lomar shezeh lifnei lefi madeita bedvarim. Right? It says in Sefer Dvarim, Som tasima lecha melech. Hashem tells the Jewish people, you're going to have a king. And yet, before Hashem tells them, the Jews say, right, Pen Yamru, when the Jews get to Eretz Israel, if you rush them to Eretz, and they will say, Asim melech, they want to have a king. So if you say you want to have a king, then you have to have a king. So there's a famous discussion is it a mitzvah? Were we always meant to have a king? Or really, we're not meant to have a king, but if you want a king, I'll give you a king, and the king isn't the ideal. And the Gemara actually says, look at what all the kings did. Look how many people died in the plague of David HaMelech. Look how many people died in the Gilboa when Shaul fought. Look how many people died because there was no rain in the time of Achav. And look how many people died when the temple and the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed in the time of Tzidkiyahu. Right? So what good did the Melech do? So one way of understanding the response to this question in terms of the Sifrei Nevi'im is that the Beit HaMikdash was always meant to be built. But because we built the Beit HaMikdash through a Melech, instead of asking Hashem to be our Melech, it was never the perfection that it was supposed to be. The Nevi'im remind us that we were incapable of having a direct relationship with Hashem, and therefore prophets came along, and they were willing to be the go-between, but that is not the ideal. Right? And so the purpose of the books of the Nevi'im is Lo'ochiach et Yisrael, to give tochacha, to give reprove to the Jewish people. Now we've talked about this before. What is tochacha? What is lo'ochiach? What is to reprove? What are you proving? Lo'ochiach in modern Hebrew means to prove. Right? You're proving that you care about someone. If you're willing to tell someone off, it means you have enough of a relationship that you believe he's willing to listen to you and that you care about what he does. And the ultimate example of this is Sefer Megillat Esther. Even in the darkest of the exiles, even when Hashem's name is hidden, even when we don't feel the presence of Hashem, the miracles are not even miraculous, it's just by way of nature, we're still in the Chavdal Kitvei Kodesh, in the holy books, we're still in the Nevi'im, and Hashem still wants to demonstrate through our mistakes that he still cares about what happens to us, that he's still willing to change the nature of history if we will only see that. And Yehi Ratzon, Hashem should bless us, that from the exile, from the Galut, that we succeed in coming back to Eretz Yisrael, where Hashem's presence is much more direct, where it's much more clear, that the world sort of cares about who we are, and where we go, and what we do. And on a personal level, so I've been in touch with a lot of you, and really, really value the fact that even in the exile, even in environments that are not always so conducive, that many, many, many of you continue to be involved in Torah, continue to reach out to us, continue to stay in touch. I wish you tremendous success. And I want to also tell you that Bezrat Hashem, the first week in June, I forget the exact dates, I think it's June 4th or June 5th, but that Shabbat of June 7th, Bezrat Hashem, that we are going to get together at Camp Stone, and we're going to have an alumni retreat. We did one last year, it was unbelievable. So I hope when you see this, you'll put this in your calendars, and keep it in your minds, and we'll Bezrat Hashem get a chance to bring a little Israel to Camp Stone in western Pennsylvania this June. Chag Sameach, have a wonderful Purim, Freilich and Purim. We miss you guys, and we look forward to seeing you all again soon. Kol Tov, Shabbat Shalom.